Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Moms on a Mission podcast. It's great to have you join me today. Well, buckle up. This show is going to be incredibly informative and equally probably entertaining. And that's important as well, especially when fear is being used to confuse us and possibly paralyze us, maybe condition us. I really am excited to have our two guests on today because of this drone thing that's going down. We're seeing so many different narratives, so many different, I believe, psychological operations. We don't know, is this, China? Is this our own government trying to terrorize us? And so I'd love to play a clip real quick because I'd love you to hear, first and foremost, before we start, I want you to hear what President Trump has to say about these drones that are flying over the tri-state area in the New England area of our country.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey, the ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Michael Lauber, Steve Hook, welcome to the Moms on a Mission podcast. I cannot wait for you to weigh in on the situation and specifically President Trump's comments. But if you could, first and foremost, Michael, let's start with you. Just introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and your show and things of that nature.
Sure. My name is Michael Lauber. I host The Insurrection here on Patriot TV and out on Rumble and Twitter and everywhere else. I co-host with Derek Evans. He's a J6 defendant. He was the highest ranking elected official to be arrested for January 6th. And with Trump's response, I think he's kind of, this is what a lot of people want to know at this point. Like, there's no reason for our government not to give us at least some idea why these drones are up in the air. If they're ours, if this is our operation, if this is just a test, let us know. Because right now, like, the conspiracy theories are just flying all over the place. We don't know what it is. People have questions, and now it's led to like drone hysteria, where originally I think mostly these videos that you saw were people, focusing on these car-sized, SUV-sized drones in New Jersey and other places that wanted answers. But now people are just filming planes and helicopters and whatever else, and small, consumer off-the-shelf drones. So we're just getting flooded with these videos. But the phenomenon's spreading, whatever it is. It's not just in New Jersey and New York. And along military bases, Picatinny Arsenal. Here where I live in Dayton, Ohio, they were spotted at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and they closed the airspace last weekend. So we need some answers, and we can get into later about some of the theories about what these might be or who might be controlling them. But again, the lack of answers from the federal government is what's causing this hysteria now.
Yeah, that's incredibly well said. And the conspiracy theory side of me, which, let's just be honest, a lot of the quote unquote conspiracy theories have come true now. So my gut tells me, that like Trump was saying that this is not a surprise. So then I think, if it is from another country, maybe they're allowing it, kind of like the spy balloon that mysteriously was allowed to be floated over a country after it, captured photos from probably multiple military bases, and it was just allowed. How much did Biden possibly get to allow that? You just can't make this stuff up. So, Steve, I'd love to hear from you. Give us a little bit about your background and then your initial thoughts.
Well, first of all, hello, Miriam. Hello, Mike. It's a pleasure to meet you both. My name is Steve Hook. I am the co-host of Del Beccaro and Hook, Enlightened Dissent. We too are also right here on Patriot TV and Rumble and YouTube and all the other outlets as well. So I am actually in New Jersey. I'm on the Jersey Shore. So where this is all going down is right where I live. Now, I must say that I have not seen one, but I know plenty of people that have. One of the things that I find so disturbing about this is not so much the drones, it's the complete butchering, ham-fisted approach that the government has taken on this. And that's the federal government, true, but it's also our own governor and our own local governments have been kind of weak on explaining this. And I don't fear the drones nearly as much as I fear the bad messaging, because that, of course, is what leads to these conspiracy theories. And I suspect if we wait long enough, these conspiracy theories will just be old-fashioned, conspiracies. We had Blaine Holt on the show the other day, and he has some suspicions on what's going on. And I kind of tend to go on along where he's at with this. This could be they're looking for something, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you both weigh in? I'm curious what, we've been hearing so many narratives, and that's another thing. When you just take a step back and you look at how the government has responded to all these quote unquote crises and pandemics and things like that, I just find it incredibly similar. It's like, you have to have a crisis to get control, right? We saw this with Hitler and Nazi Germany. We saw that with Mao Zedong and, Mao's Cultural Revolution in China. And it's like, you have to have a problem so that you can, get the people to go along with giving up their power and their freedom. And so I tend to wonder, well, now are we going to have, some law and rule about flying drones? And, if we're not allowed to have drones and we're not allowed to fly them, then how can we combat, if drones are being used against us? Kind of like the Second Amendment. So I wonder, if this is just one more operation to create a problem, but that's just my gut response. But Michael, you said you had some theories. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right on the money, and I think that's probably the most likely explanation. Is there is an FAA renewal bill up, and part of this will deal with drones and personal usage of drones. So I think in reality, this is the government trying to scare people into getting behind this, similar to like the Patriot Act and the FISA courts and renewals, and everything else that's chipped away at our freedom and allowed the government to become the monster they are today, with the DOJ weaponized against the American people. Now, as far as like conspiracy theories go, with the level of ineptitude that our federal government has shown over the last 4 years, like I have trouble believing it's some like mastermind overarching plan. But the most likely, I think, is just to scare people. But the other ones that they do have me concerned are the missing nuclear devices. And, as the one drone manufacturer that kind of went viral the other day from, I think it was Saxton something or other, Saxton Surveillance, Saxton whatever. But anyway, as he said, there's missing suitcase nukes from the 1990s, from when the fall of the Soviet Union, that were in Ukraine. I guess initially there were around 80 of these missing. Most of them have been recovered, but somewhere between 7 and 14 are still out there. There's also the possibility that Al-Qaeda or someone else may have gotten fissile nuclear material from either Pakistan, who we know is a nuclear armed nation, or somewhere else. So those are realistic possibilities, or that it's a dirty bomb. We've heard, Al-Qaeda has this home front plan they're pushing forward with. They want a large-scale attack on the American home front, as well as many other nations around the world. This is something that we're expecting to see rolled out and happen, unfortunately, in the near future. So this is really like, the hysteria is not going to stop until there's some kind of answer. And like you said, like President Trump said, the military knows what's going on. Well, if they did it right, Pat, they weren't allowed to respond, and they haven't been able to. So if people know what's going on, then it clearly isn't being communicated down the chain as it needs to be. Otherwise, people are going to continue to wonder if these are being controlled by foreign nationals. I mean, I heard one theory from an NSA whistleblower and a reporter, it doesn't want to be named yet because he's looking into it, that there's people in the Pentagon that say that this is rogue AI, that somehow some AI program just decided it's going to do whatever it wants. That originally, I guess it was a battlefield scanning program where they would work as a swarm, communicate with each other, and then send back potential targets and then locations and logistics, and just map an area, and that the program went nuts and it's just doing whatever it wants now. I mean, I find that to be a little far-fetched, but at this point, I'd believe it was space aliens. Well, whatever, if we just had real answers.
Yeah. And when you really think about it, you think about any type of huge mass hysteria causing situation, like, a gun shooting, or, just, the strange fires in Maui. I mean, there have been so many opportunities for the government to weigh in on situations like the spy balloon, and it's just like the silence is so deafening. It's just completely not plausible for a government to not weigh in and at least alleviate the fears of the people, because people just naturally, we fill in the blanks, right? Like when we don't know something, we just fill in the blank ourselves, and that makes me think maybe that's part of the issue. And then what about this happening right before the inauguration? I don't find that to be just coincidental myself. So Steve, what are your theories and thoughts?
Well, I tell you what, if we really want to extrapolate this and why people are starting to come up with their own conjecture on what this could be, you could go all the way back to COVID and the lies surrounding the jab and all of this stuff. And the problem is, it's a boy who cried wolf scenario. We've been burned so many times by this government. You mentioned the Chinese balloon. Hell, they had that on radar before, when it was over the Bering Strait. Before it even got to Alaska, they knew it was coming. And then they BS'd everybody and said, well, it's we don't really know, but just to be safe, we're going to let it run its course, even though it's zigzagging back and forth across, very top secret nuclear sites and other military sites. And then we'll blow it out of the sky after it traverses the entire continental United States. We'll hit it 11 miles off of the South Carolina coast. That does not, that does not inspire a lot of confidence. So when they ham-fist this thing, what I was mentioning General Holt, when he said, and it sounds good to me, and Michael touched on it too, we do know that suitcase nukes and some dirty fissure material has gotten out of Ukraine. Where it is, no one knows. But if they are flying these drones around the East Coast, and now we're getting reports of DC, and we've got some in San Diego and up in Oregon, they could actually be looking for something. And I think that they probably got themselves in a bit of a ringer here, because what do you say? You can easily say the drones are not there with malicious intent. We don't believe that's the case. Okay, well, they're not lying there. But what they're not telling you is, we're using it for good, and the good is we think somebody's about to nuke a major city. Now, it's easy to make that leap when you see what this government has done for the past 4 years. So General Holt seems to think that they could be looking for something, and they just don't want to say what they're looking for. So I don't know. Hopefully, the longer this goes on, the less of a threat it becomes. But they're definitely there. People are seeing them. That's no lie.
Well, if I could, I want to add one other point onto that too, is the other problem people have is a couple of these stories they've sort of floated over the last few days that have turned out to either be false or clear distractions. Like yesterday, it was a radioactive medical device that was stolen out of the package. Well, I don't see them deploying 50 plus, dozens of drones to look for a tiny little radioactive thing that maybe somebody could make, I don't know, like a dirty hand grenade out of, and maybe, take out a building for all of eternity. It would be radioactive, but it's not going to be like a real widespread radioactive device, not even like a dirty bomb where you'd have like a city contaminated, maybe a warehouse, maybe a house. But, that's clearly not what it is. And then floating these things, these stories, is the other reason nobody trusts them. Or even just the lack of communication with, New Jersey's police department when they had this drone crash the other day, which, by the way, we still don't have any real photos of or anything else. One of them turned out to be just a consumer drone, but the other one we still don't know anything about. If they're telling the police and first responders that they need to wear hazmat gear to go out there, and they're not sure if these things are carrying payloads or not. How are they not sure? Again, if everything's okay and these are all legit, these don't sound like the kind of responses that should be coming out of the federal government, which is another reason that we don't trust them.
Yeah, they certainly, I think they certainly prepared the way for us to respond this way. And I mean, that's my thing is like, when President-elect Trump says that they know, I mean, I like kind of your thought, Michael, that, maybe they're doing something good and they're protecting us. They don't want people to know the true story, because that would be incredibly alarming, more so than the drone saga. So, that's great if that's really it. But I mean, like you were saying, Steve, I mean, after COVID, we rightfully should not trust, and we should suspect everything as a lie. Everything is a psyop, and they're conditioning us with everything that they do. And I just think the timing, I can't get away from that. I think the timing, what are the chances that something like this happens days before the inauguration?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the infamous self-licking ice cream cone, isn't it? They just throw it out there. They say, "Oh, we have no reason to believe that there's anything dangerous about these drones." By the way, if you come across one, make sure you're fully zipped up in a hazmat suit. Call every possible authority you know. But other than that, there's nothing to worry about.
Nothing to see here.
So I don't know. I tell you what though, if this were worst case scenario, a dirty bomb, a chem bioweapon of some kind, and they are in fact trying to track it, you better know that that inauguration ceremony is going to be a nerve-wracking affair, I would think, for everybody that was there, that is there. So I don't know what the deal is, but I do know that I don't trust this current administration. And what is it, 34, 35 days away? Can't get here soon enough, because I suspect
right.
we'll find out shortly thereafter.
Well, I mean, I know I've been referencing COVID quite a bit and how they've lied to us, but then we could even look at J6 and, how come we don't know anything about the bombs there? Like, what on earth? Like, our government has had multiple massive situations on their hands, and we still don't have accurate information, obviously, about January 6th intentionally. But I just, now I think we've been primed and ready to see something like this happen, and to really be incredibly concerned that our government either knows and they're not saying, or and that they haven't addressed us. That is my thing. Nobody except President-elect.
If I can just weigh in on that, Miriam, because what you said is kind of something important. None of this needed to be. This, if it's not a psyop intentionally, you have a funny way of convincing people of it, because you've botched COVID, you've botched the Russia collusion hoax, you've botched just about everything. The border is secure. Remember, the same guy, Mayorkas, who's telling us that they're probably private planes, is the same guy that said the border is secure. So
Right.
They have absolutely tripped and stumbled all over themselves since day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also lied and, said Trump is a threat to democracy. And, over and over and over, they say these crazy, crazy things. And then, with the Russiagate thing, we see that they're caught lying. And then, I forget what Kash Patel said. He was on my show, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, but he was saying like two of the folks are still there in office, in power, and they were caught lying, and nothing has happened to these people. And so we're supposed to believe them and trust them when they've been caught in a lie. They've had no repercussions or consequences, and yet they're still leading us and guiding us and explaining things. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't care. And you're right. Yeah. Christopher Wray has been lied under oath multiple times. So is Mayorkas. So is plenty of other officials under the Biden regime. And that's part of the problem, is there's no repercussions for lying to Congress or anyone else. We have too many of these inept rhinos that refuse to actually utilize the power we've granted them and enforce the law equally. So they're allowed to go back and lie to the American people over and over again. There's no consequences, no anything. And the only thing that we have on the horizon is that Kash Patel, President Trump, and many members of the incoming administration will declassify and release all these documents, which means they won't be able to hide behind the lies anymore. Even their, Democrat operatives posing as journalists in the dinosaur media can still go out there and say whatever they want. Once the facts and the documents are out and the public has had a chance to see them, the lies won't carry the same weight they do. And I suspect we won't find out the truth about what's going on with these drones until President Trump's sworn in either. The Biden administration, this regime has very little incentive to go tell the truth, or even just help squelch the panic that's going on with the people in New Jersey and New York and everywhere else, which is very understandable. If these things are flying right over your head, and that might be because there's a nuke in your backyard, they've got good reason to be panicky right now.
Yeah, and if President-elect Trump is changing his plans because of the location of these drones, I mean, there has to be some level of concern with him as well. And just the lack of information is or just sharing of that information is obviously concerning him so much that he's changing his plans.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are very we're proving it right here. A lot of people are very, very cynical about anything and everything that comes out of this Biden administration. So, and that's the problem with doing the old boy who cried wolf thing. When you BS the people for as long as you do, all of a sudden they don't believe in anything you say. I mean, I've talked to many doctors who were like saying, the problem with the whole COVID scam was that now they don't believe us on anything, and that's not a very safe place to be. And but this covers the entire spectrum, whether it's national security, whether it's our national sovereignty, whether it's our health, whether it's our education, whether it's big Ivy League schools and have all of a sudden become just factories that turn out anti-Semites and we hate capitalism crowd. So everybody is cynical, and they look at this and say, oh, to hell with all of you. I can't wait for Trump. And I think for good reason.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, we think about the open border, and we've been hearing, lots of folks talk about these sleeper cells and things of that nature. So who knows, like, if that is having anything, coming into play in this situation as well.
Yeah, because we don't know what they have, what capabilities they have, or when they're going to be activated. But we do know there's a lot of people here that hate America that took advantage of Biden's open border to sneak in. We know Hezbollah has operatives within the U.S. We know the North Koreans do. We know the IRGC's got cells all over the country. And, they've I'm fairly certain these drones are not from a foreign adversary at this point, with as many as we've seen and over as many locations, that I think even the Biden regime would have to do something about it by now, even if it was only just to not look like complete fools once Trump came in office and shot them all down. So I do think they have to be ours. But like you said, like, we don't know what these invaders have planned either. And you got to look back in history too. It doesn't take that many people to do an immense amount of damage. And I'm not even talking about like the 9/11 hijackers. We can go back to World War II. You had two German guys that worked in the power plants around the shipyards in New York. They were going to shut down our Liberty ship operation, all our landing vessels, by literally walking into the power plant. I think they were maintenance or janitor workers. They'd been there for a long time. They had 2 buckets of sand. Their whole entire plan was to go in and pour these into the generators, which would have taken them out for months and completely ended our operation to build these ships for the D-Day invasion. So it could be something very simple. It doesn't take that many people. You just have to have access. We've got at least 10 million, somewhere between 10 and 30 million illegals here. So who knows who's in place where and what kind of hell they're prepared to unleash on America when they're given the signal.
Yeah, that I just yesterday I was just praying for President-elect Trump. And just praying for the inauguration, and that just everything will go smoothly, because I mean, even General Flynn has talked about these next few weeks and days are so important, and we just cannot rest. We have to be vigilant and aware and do what we can. What do you guys recommend people do? I mean, they see all this hysteria, they see, these narratives, and if you're on social media and you watch any mainstream media, which I don't highly recommend, but if you're hearing all these narratives, I mean, some folks, rightfully so, can get really stressed and filled with anxiety. And I was just wondering what you all would recommend.
Well, here I am at ground zero of Drone City, USA. And I'm happy to say most people are really not, the media plays this up like everybody's panicking. Oh, people are freaking out. No, they're not. They're looking up in the sky and saying, what in the hell is that? That's what they're doing. And they're doing more and more of it. And of course, as Michael pointed out earlier, with each and every legitimate sighting of a drone, people are saying, what is that? Oh, it's a Piper Cub flying into a airport about 5 miles away. So you're going to get a little bit of that. I suspect most people, and what they should do, at least I know what I'm doing, is I'm concentrating on Christmas coming up. I'm concentrating on the family. And you know what? I'm also following your lead, Miriam. I'm saying prayers. Yeah. I'm praying for the safety of the country, the president-elect. There's a lot of people that don't want him in that office, and not all of them are foreign born. But I suspect that it's going to end up working out, and probably maybe a couple of years down the road, we'll figure out what the hell this was all about. But good Lord, the Biden administration could not have handled this worse if they tried.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd agree, Steve. I think the best thing you can do is not overreact right now. And just remember, like, this is the same incompetence we've seen out of this group of people, these deep state globalists, for the last 4 years. So that's not going to change. I do think it's a good idea to invest in canned food and shotguns. Be prepared in case things do go wrong. But At the same time, you don't want that to become your life. It's good, it's better be prepared to have it, not need it, than to have it, not need it, rather than need it and not have it. But at the same time, you don't want that to become all consuming. And yeah, pray for President Trump, pray for the transition team. We will get answers on this. It's just not going to happen now. This geezer in DC, he has no control over what's going on anyway. As O'Keefe's undercover reporters put out yesterday, they're basically assume this guy's already dead. They're already operating around him like he has no power. So this is just the deep state in action, and their ineptitude, again, on display for the world to see. So don't panic too much. But if we do find out it is something more serious, I guess that's when you panic and evacuate the area.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for your research, for your wisdom, and for weighing in. And I would just love for you to share with how folks can connect with you and follow you, your show, and maybe on social media. Michael, start with you, and we'll finish with you, Steve.
Well, thank you. You can find The Insurrection here on Patriot TV. We're on at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, Monday through Friday. You can follow me on Twitter at Real Mike Lauber and see all my sarcasm over there. And I just like to post articles and things I'm watching on the horizon.
And Steve?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, Del Bacaro and Hook, it airs every Sunday on Patriot TV. You can find us at patriot.tv/DHED. We're also on Rumble and YouTube. And I think you can find me on Exit, Right Hook 1776. But it's a real pleasure to be with you guys today. And thanks for the time.
Thank you both for your wisdom. Thanks for weighing in on this. And thank you all so much. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for having us.
And the moral of the story, Michael told us we need to be prepared. And yes, we need to have guns. Yes, we need to have food and water and all the things, right? But we also need to be prepared monetarily. And the government lies to us. That's the running theme. We don't trust, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so we've learned through these various pandemics that we cannot trust them. And we just need to be prepared. And one other way we can be prepared is with our money. And we want to leave a legacy for our children. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so, the dollar is losing value every single day. We saw crazy inflation numbers through the Biden regime and that administration. And one way we can be prepared is to get some gold and silver. And you might say, I don't have a lot of extra money, especially with Christmas, right? And things like that. Recovering from Christmas, usually January is a tight month. But if you have an IRA, you can roll over your IRA to a gold-backed and silver-backed IRA, no taxes, no fees. You just roll it over to actually a hard asset. It's actually gold and silver in a vault instead of just, the government saying, you own these stocks. When the dollar crashes, when it starts losing value, it doesn't matter if you have stocks. It doesn't matter what you have. It all goes to zero eventually. But whatever hard assets you have, land as well, rental homes, rental properties. I mean, these are things that you can do as well. But if you don't have an IRA, some folks have told me, Miriam, I don't have an IRA. Well, you know what you can do? You can do what I'm doing, what my sister's doing, is you can just get some silver every 2 weeks. It's roughly $30 an ounce. It changes obviously every single day, every few minutes, actually, it changes. But you can buy 1 or 2 ounces every 2 weeks and start building a legacy. So when things continue, I know Trump's coming into office, but that doesn't change the value of our dollar. We are in so much debt right now. Just grab a couple of ounces every 2 weeks and allow God to multiply what you do have. You can think, I don't have enough money to get 10 or 20 grand of silver and gold right now. Do you have $30? Do you have $60? Do that and allow God to multiply that. You do what you can do and you allow God to do what you can't. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and God bless.